Every few years, a talent competition produces a moment that stops viewers in their tracks. Sometimes it is a voice that defies someone's age. Sometimes it is a performer who moves like no one has ever moved before. But in June 2018, America's Got Talent delivered something the world would never forget. A 13-year-old girl from a small town in England walked onto that stage and sang with a voice that left the judges completely speechless. Courtney Hadwin became a global sensation overnight. But the same fame that made her would eventually become something else entirely, a weight she would spend years trying to carry. The audition aired on June 12, 2018. Courtney was 13 years old, and she walked onto the stage looking like any other nervous teenager. Before performing, she admitted to the judges that she was plagued with stage fright. She could barely raise her voice to speak to them, and Melby had to encourage her just to begin singing. Courtney chose Otis Redding's Hard to Handle, a classic soul track that demands confidence and swagger. What followed was a transformation that left everyone in the room stunned. The moment she started singing, the shy teenager disappeared entirely. Her voice was powerful, her movement electric, and her stage presence unlike anything the judges had seen from someone her age. She dropped to her knees mid-performance, prompting Simon Cowell to exclaim under his breath. Howie Mandel immediately compared her to Janis Joplin. Melby looked like she could not believe what she was witnessing. When the song finally ended, the entire audience rose to its feet. Howie Mandel did not wait. He walked straight to the golden buzzer and pressed it, sending Courtney directly to the live shows. Backstage, he declared he had never been more excited in his life, comparing her to Darcy Lynn Farmer, the ventriloquist who had won season 12, and suggesting Courtney was this year's winner. It was the third time Mandel had used his golden buzzer on a singer who went on to become a frontrunner, having previously pressed it for Grace Vanderwaal, the ukulele-playing singer who won season 10. The audition was broadcast to more than 11 million live viewers on NBC, but the real impact came online. Within 1 week, the video had been viewed more than 130 million times across social media and streaming platforms. That number would eventually surpass 250 million views, making it one of the most-watched auditions in the show's history. Just like that, Courtney Hadwin was no longer a shy teenager from England. She was a global phenomenon. As the season progressed, she continued to deliver. In the quarterfinals, she performed James Brown's Papa's Got a Brand New Bag and received standing ovation from all 4 judges. In the semifinals, she took on Steppenwolf's Born to Be Wild, performing with a high-pitched scream and her signature dance moves. Howie Mandel once again predicted she would win the whole competition. Simon Cowell called her a bundle of excitement, describing her as raw and messy, and said that watching her transform from a girl shaking like a leaf into something extraordinary on stage was exactly why he loved her. In the finale, she performed alongside the Struts before delivering Janis Joplin's Piece of My Heart. By every measure, she was a frontrunner. When the results were announced, something completely unexpected happened. Courtney Hadwin finished in 6th place. The winner was close-up magician Shin Lim. A journalist present at the Dolby Theatre reported that the collective gasps from the audience were deafening when Courtney was eliminated. Fans flooded Twitter, calling the result shocking and expressing disbelief that she had not even made the top 5. The girl predicted to win from her very first audition was sent home without a trophy. After the finale, record deals came quickly. Simon Cowell partnered with Arista Records to sign Courtney to a multi-album deal announced on December 17, 2018. She was 14 years old, and she spoke about how excited and fortunate she felt to join the label. Cowell said he would never forget her first audition, and that he was thrilled to have the opportunity to work closely with her. Everyone appeared excited about the deal. Then, shortly before Courtney's 16th birthday, everything fell apart. Psycho Music and Arista Records underwent severe structural changes. Psycho Music was winding down its operations around that period, leaving multiple artists without label support. Courtney, who had signed a deal expecting a major label push behind her career, was suddenly without a team. The deal that was supposed to launch her into stardom had simply folded. In interviews years later, she described how the collapse made everything harder. She said she constantly felt like she had to prove herself more every single day, and that the situation left her in a more difficult position than she had been in before appearing on the show. Instead of bouncing back and reinventing herself after the collapse, Courtney began facing a creative identity crisis that no one had prepared her for. After the finale and her signing, she was placed into writing sessions with pop-leaning songwriters and producers, people who did not understand her sound at all. She later explained that she was put into large writing camps and simply handed songs she could not relate to. She described the music as pure pop that just was not her at all. The music that had made Courtney famous was not pop. It was soul, blues, and rock and roll from a different era. She had discovered her musical identity by watching black and white YouTube videos of James Brown, Tina Turner, Etta James, and Aretha Franklin. She said the moment she knew what she wanted to do was after seeing James Brown perform I Got You, I Feel Good. That was her sound. But the industry wanted something more modern and commercial, and in the process, they nearly erased what made her special entirely. The turning point came when she met producer Kevin Bowe, who had worked with Etta James and Joe Cocker and genuinely understood the music Courtney loved. With Bowe, she was finally encouraged to contribute to the songwriting process rather than having session writers dictate everything to her. Courtney later confessed that songwriting had never come naturally. Her main priority had always been performing on stage. But over time, something shifted, and writing became something she said she could no longer live without. She had been working on her debut album since she was approximately 15 years old. In September 2025, that album, titled Little Miss Jagged, was finally released, the result of years of struggle, rejection, and creative rediscovery. While Courtney was trying to find her voice as an artist, the internet was busy trying to dismantle it. The same audience that had watched her audition in amazement began scrutinizing every detail of her past. They found footage of her on The Voice Kids UK in 2017, where she had finished in the top 6. They compared her confident performances there to the shy teenager who had barely been able to speak on America's Got Talent. Within hours, the conclusion spread across social media. She was fake. The shyness, they claimed, was a calculated performance designed to maximize shock value when she transformed on stage. The backlash was immediate. Viewers took to Twitter calling out what they saw as an inconsistency, with one user stating that because she had been a finalist on The Voice UK, her entire act was manufactured. The accusation spread fast. What the critics did not acknowledge was that America's Got Talent had no rule against contestants with prior competition experience. Courtney was not hiding anything and was not breaking any rules. But on the internet, facts rarely matter as much as a story people choose to tell. Her grandfather, Tom Story, came to her defense, telling the Daily Mail that the family had always believed she would connect with the American audience in a way the UK audience had not fully appreciated. The decision to enter America's Got Talent over Britain's Got Talent had been strategic. They believed the United States market would respond to her rock and roll energy. While they were right about the reception, they could not have predicted the backlash. At just 14, Courtney handled the criticism with a grace that seemed far beyond her years. She said she had learned from the experience not to focus on bad comments and to concentrate only on the positive, thanking everyone who had voted and supported her throughout the competition. It was a remarkably mature response from someone who had just been told by millions of strangers that she was a fraud. The bullying, however, did not stop online. Even after becoming world famous, she was mocked by her own school friends. Classmates reportedly taunted her and called her names in Hesleden, County Durham, at the very moment she should have been celebrating the biggest achievement of her life. Her parents had feared the spotlight precisely because of what bullying might follow. But when you are a teenager, there is no real protection from the people you see every day. Between 2019 and 2022, Courtney Hadwin largely disappeared from public view. She was between 15 and 18 years old during this period. The momentum from her record-breaking audition had evaporated, the label had collapsed, and the songwriting sessions had produced nothing authentic. The girl who had been called a lion, a force of nature, and a future star was suddenly nowhere to be found. Years later, she described that period as deeply challenging and did not try to sugarcoat it. There was constant pressure to prove she was more than just a girl from that television show. The sudden fame had brought a weight she had not expected, and when the label support disappeared, she was left to figure everything out entirely on her own. The years away were not empty, though they were filled with writing. She used the album as a kind of diary, a way to process everything that had happened to her and make sense of it through music.